With Battlefield 5, DICE announced they were taking the franchise back to its roots with World War II. Unfortunately, they also brought changes in gameplay and character design that will not be to everyone's liking. If you enjoyed Battlefield 3, 4, 1, or Bad Company 2, you might be disappointed with Battlefield 5. With Battlefield 5, DICE has implemented what they call attrition, which is just a fancy word for scarcity. To start, you get far less ammunition in Battlefield 5 than in previous titles. For instance, assault rifles get 2 spare magazines to begin with, though you can stock another from a resupply station for a total of 3, plus the one in use. Enemies also drop ammo when they die, similar to the scavenger perk in Modern Warfare 2. We don't understand why soldiers don't start with ammo at capacity. The current system makes them seem unprepared and ill-equipped. This was even worse in the beta, where you only started with 1 spare magazine, so it's nice to see DICE recognise they went too far and scaled their changes back, at least in this instance. Nonetheless, if you played Battlefield 3 or 4, you might be used to 6 or 7 spare magazines, so this might still feel restrictive. None more so than with the Recon class. Snipers can now only reach a maximum of 30 bullets after stocking up additional ammunition. DICE has stated, "Attrition is a camping antidote. Recon class players can't just camp on a hill forever without eventually having to move away to feed their rifles. I just camp near supply stations instead." To be fair, most of the stations were on flag, so camping there could be considered defending the objective. So perhaps DICE succeeded here. Tell us what you think in the comment section below. Either way, following your squad into closer ranges is a death sentence for snipers, as you will be outgunned by automatic weapons used by every other class in the game. Playing the Recon class is further hampered by the Lee Enfield, the gun you first start out with. This bolt-action rifle does not do enough damage to give you the kill credit if someone else finishes off your target. The only positive that it has is its 10-round capacity, which is nearly double that of every other gun available on the Recon class. On the subject of classes and ammunition, how has the support class been affected by this? Part of why DICE introduced attrition was to increase reliance on support players, and here they have certainly succeeded. I spent most of my time tossing ammunition pouches to my teammates, though I didn't get as many points as I would have in previous battlefields. DICE says there's satisfaction to being needed, but it feels more like a chore. At least the support class still has infinite ammo, so play that class if you don't want to worry about running your weapon dry. As a bonus, you can also build fortifications with the repair tool, though this is only possible on predetermined sites around the objectives. The repair tool can also be used to repair friendly vehicles, as was the case in Battlefield 1. Ammunition pouches have been integrated into crates and are no longer merely an alternative. Crates no longer automatically resupply players in the general vicinity. Instead, you must approach them and press a button to get a pouch. The crate then triggers a long cooldown, during which you cannot get more ammo out of it. Resupply stations and medical crates function identically, just with medical pouches instead. This matters because medical pouches are the only way to reliably bring you back to full health. Automatic regeneration now has a limit, meaning if you take heavy damage, you will only heal back around 30 to 40 health. Medics have an endless supply of medical pouches, which when used, heal you for 100% unless interrupted by incoming damage. DICE has also changed how you revive downed teammates. You don't need to be a medic to revive fallen squad mates, though the process will be faster if you are. When you are downed, you will enter an injured state wherein you can choose whether to scream for help or to give up and die. If you choose the former, you will hold on for longer, though the screams do get rather annoying, doubly so if your character is female, but more on that later. That being said, this mechanic is certainly more authentic than resurrecting inanimate corpses in previous battlefields. The reviving process also appears more believable now, though this comes at the cost of time. The animation takes significantly longer than earlier titles, even for medics. If you play Rainbow Six Siege, this will look very familiar to you. Any character in Siege can revive downed teammates, but Doc can do so significantly faster. At first glance, you might think the medic has lost its relevance as the sole reviving class, and you may be right. While any class can revive downed squad mates, only medics can revive other teammates. If you stick with your squad as DICE wants you to, this distinction is irrelevant to you. What makes the medic even worse to play is how weak their guns are. Though submachine guns are supposed to excel in close-quarter combat, you will find yourself outgunned by assault rifles and machine guns at all ranges. Another mechanic that Siege players will find familiar is the removal and replacement of spotting. When you press the spot button, you will place a static marker on the environment, similar to the ping feature in Rainbow Six Siege. However, vestiges of 3D spotting remain in Battlefield 5 as you can still track your enemies using the spotting scope. Why you can't do the same through a rifle scope makes little sense, but that appears to be Battlefield 5's new direction. The attrition system has also affected vehicles as you can no longer repair your vehicle to 100% from the inside. Instead, the amount of health you can recover is indicated on a translucent bar. However, you can hop out and use your tool to repair it to 100%. You cannot do this with planes, of course, though now you can turn your aircraft while you hold the repair button. Vehicle ammunition works differently and is perhaps simpler to understand. Ammunition is limited and does not recharge. To resupply, you need to dock at supply stations at bases or near objectives. DICE stated this will stop vehicles from staying put on hills and shelling targets, but I found the opposite to be true. As a driver, I felt the need to camp my vehicle around these stations instead, either on objectives or in the base. At least the secondary gunner still has unlimited ammo for his machine gun. Turrets have also been reworked to have realistic limitations. You can no longer swivel your cannon as quickly as you can point your gun on foot. The turret rotates at a fixed speed, which gives enemies more time to sneak up on your blind side. You are still free to look around in third person, but the turret will take a while to swivel to whatever you are looking at. You might forget to wait for your cannon to align with your view in the chaos of battle though, which might lead you to wasting time and ammunition shooting prematurely in the wrong direction. While this coupled with the ammunition rework are undoubtedly nerfs, their basis in reality adds a feeling of authenticity which helps immerse you in the game's setting. It is tragic then that this glimmer of authenticity is thrown out the window by the drivers themselves, who are always inexplicably female. This cannot be changed in the customization menu, which only allows you to customize your vehicles and choose their specializations. Having no option to be a male pilot will be a deal breaker for anyone put off by the first trailer, which was actually representative of how annoying the characters and their voices are. Hearing a female scream for help or even ask for orders sounds completely out of place for a World War II setting and ruins any immersion you might have felt previously. This is made worse by what they say and how they say it. You can only hear, "Ta, soldier," and "Hello, old friend," so many times before you quit the game entirely. Don't take it from us. Have a listen.
Artillery, watch it! Ordnance on us, artillery fire! Oh, bugger, artillery! What am I doing here? Tell me what I'm doing here, someone!
A community manager has agreed that players should have the choice to change the pilot's gender and has vowed to pass this on to the developers. However, my assessment still stands until this option is actually in the game for players to use. Recon and medics are also female by default, though you can change this in the customization menu which offers a list of female and male characters. I wonder how many players are aware of this, considering the countless female medics and snipers I encountered, coupled with the total lack of female support and assault players. On the subject of customization, it's weird how you can only have white German males and female soldiers, while the Allies have considerable racial diversity in the range of characters you can choose. At this time, Allied soldiers can be white, black or Asian. We think Filipino, but we're not exactly certain. It is odd that they accurately depicted ethnic demographics of both sides and then threw that glimmer of authenticity away for gender inclusion. The characters themselves don't look very good in our opinion. Their skin in particular appears waxy with blurry textures. Fortunately, you do not get to see this in combat, so it doesn't matter as much. That brings us to visuals. Battlefield 5 is a beautiful game with impressive lighting, sharp textures and detailed models both on the vehicles and the environment. However, it has inherited most of this beauty from Battlefield 1. If you were expecting a substantial title-to-title improvement like the upgrade Battlefield 1 brought over Battlefield 4 or Hardline, you will be disappointed. Take for instance fire. Battlefield 5's fire inherits the impressive lighting effects from Battlefield 1, meaning explosions are bright, even in broad daylight, and the fire has a beautiful orange-red glow. However, the flames are blocky and are nowhere near as detailed as the rest of the game. This was exactly the same case in Battlefield 1, and I was hoping Battlefield 5 would bring it up a par, but sadly, this has not transpired. You might ask, is ray tracing not an improvement? While Battlefield 5 is the first game to implement this technique, it only uses it for reflections and not lighting or shadows. Nonetheless, ray tracing cripples performance to the point of rendering the game unplayable. Even the $1,200 RTX 2080 Ti can only manage an average of 49 frames per second at 1080p, with the 1% low dipping to 40. We have much more to say on this subject that would be irrelevant to Battlefield 5, so we'll reserve further analysis of ray tracing's disastrous performance for our upcoming video on the RTX 2070. So please like, subscribe, and press the bell button to know when it's out. On the subject of performance though, my aging 2600K could not keep this game at 60 frames per second, often dropping into the low 30s on certain maps. The game is not to blame as my processor is ancient and is overdue for an upgrade. However, I do blame the game for not allowing me to launch unless I updated to the latest graphics driver. The driver I was on played the beta just fine, so why was I forced to update again? You might think this is not an issue worth complaining about, but as a gamer who likes to stick with a stable driver, this was extremely annoying. I hope DICE will remove this requirement, or at the very least not force me to update my driver again with future game patches, as new drivers have been known to degrade performance across different titles. Going back to visuals though, the only significant improvement Battlefield 5 brought over its predecessors is particle effects during snowy weather. However, these maps also bring to the forefront another of Battlefield 5's most glaring flaws: its user interface. The UI is atrocious to the point of being unusable on many maps. Its white text is unreadable in a bright environment, which is common in most daylight maps. If they wanted to use white text, they should have added a black outline which would have been vastly easier to read in any environment. But that's not all. The objective markers are so faint you'll have trouble finding them in order to issue a command as a squad leader. If you are a squad leader, you will have the option of calling in reinforcements if your squad is doing well, much like score streaks in Call of Duty. Depending on how many points your squad has accumulated, you can call in a supply drop that will resupply ammunition and health, a half-track, a heavy tank, or a rocket strike. The heavy tanks seem to be unbalanced though. The British Churchill Crocodile feels a lot stronger and more versatile than the German Sturm Tiger. Additionally, I'm not a fan of how the rocket strike is deployed, as it is needlessly dangerous, requiring you to mark your target area through a spyglass. I would have preferred being able to point your strike on a map, though given how problematic the UI is, I suppose that would have presented its own difficulties. On the subject of the UI though, you might not know when a vehicle becomes available if you aren't paying close attention to the map or the deploy screen. Even if you do keep a keen eye and manage to claim a vehicle, you might not get to use it. I encountered a crippling bug that wouldn't let me fly the plane I had chosen to spawn in, and wouldn't let me use the UI to redeploy, forcing me to leave the server. In another instance, I didn't get control of the plane until the last second, leading to an unavoidable crash. Tanks are also prone to bugs, as I found out when my vehicle clipped through the terrain, taking damage while I was under the map. These were just 3 of the several bugs I encountered, which makes me think this game isn't polished at all right now. Even while combat is going smoothly, the UI does not make it clear how many enemies you killed. There was no such ambiguity in Battlefield 1, which makes us wonder why they changed a system that wasn't broken. At this point you might be asking, is the game fun to play? We've already covered what playing support, recon and medic is like because we've saved the best for last. Assault is by far the most enjoyable class to play, all thanks to the rifle it starts you out with. This gun is by far the most versatile and fun weapon to use in Battlefield 5. Its hipfire is tight enough to win close-range encounters, while a medium-range scope can be equipped to target enemies at longer ranges. The recoil is manageable enough to land most of your shots, even at these distances. As if that wasn't enough, the Assault class also has access to rocket launchers and other explosives like anti-tank mines and dynamite, meaning you are a threat not only to infantry, but vehicles as well. Assault feels by far the most powerful class in the game. No matter what class you play as, Battlefield 5 sounds amazing. As with the visuals, this game has inherited Battlefield 1's excellent sound design, which is fine by us since perfection can't really be improved upon. Guns sound like the powerful, lethal weapons they are in real life. But the real star here is the vehicles. Tanks sound fantastic whether you are firing, being fired upon, getting hit or just moving and aiming. This is particularly important when your tank is severely damaged, as the sound design makes it clear you are in danger and need to act quickly. On the subject of sound, let's talk about music. The menu music fits the theme of World War II and is nice to listen to. In combat, however, you won't notice much music until the match is ending. You might hear some music while you're on the deploy screen, but none of it is memorable. A few players have called Battlefield 5 the purest battlefield yet, thanks to the lack of behemoths, weapon pickups, elite classes and weapon variants. The last bit isn't entirely accurate, as there is quite a bit of variance with specializations. Weapons can be augmented to fire faster, have better handling or increased capacity. However, you have to grind your weapon to higher ranks to do this, and this is particularly troublesome with vehicles. A pilot who has fully specialized his plane is far better equipped than a novice who just got into the game, who faces an uphill battle, both in terms of skill, durability, and versatility of his plane. Gadgets like radar, bombs, as well as upgrades to durability, damage, and rate of fire are locked behind these ranks. Even after you grind your way up these ranks, you still have to spend currency called company coins to unlock these specializations. You can increase the currency you get by completing assignments and daily orders, much like For Honor and Rainbow Six Siege's challenges. Single-player war stories. These take place in 3 short campaigns, beginning with a British prisoner recruited to serve behind enemy lines in North Africa. The story here is pretty bare bones, though it tries to depict emotional moments with characters you spend too little time with to care about. The missions themselves take place in a vast expanse and give you objectives which you can complete in any order. The objectives themselves are repetitive. Go there and blow stuff up. I was pleasantly surprised with the number of ways you can accomplish said objective. For example, I was having a hard time reaching a certain objective as the enemy would overwhelm me with infantry and Stukas before I got there. The game does advise stealth, but I didn't have enough time to sneak around. Instead, I thought it would be helpful to destroy the Stukas so they couldn't be called as a reinforcement. The previous mission requires you to plant bombs on grounded Stukas, so I assumed this would still be possible in the next mission, even though the game didn't explicitly say so. What I found was even better. The game let me hop in the Stuka and use its weapons to destroy the objectives. I was not expecting Battlefield single-player to allow an entirely different manner in which to complete the objective, so this came as a pleasant surprise. However, the next war story wiped all that away with its opening statement, which is a concise representation of the game's tonal inconsistency. As war rages across the globe, Western Europe falls under the shadow of the swastika. If this was your first exposure to Battlefield 5, this sentence might make you think the game was a gritty, unflinching portrayal of war, maybe even remind you of Call of Duty World at War, a game that actually depicted the swastika. Unlike this game, which replaces it with whatever you call this. Why mention the swastika at all if you're not going to show it? Why not use this as an opportunity to put a name to your replacement? Was there some disconnect between the writers and artists? Or perhaps this is all on the writers, as it seems they had no coherent idea of what they wanted to make. This is apparent in the Norwegian war story, which depicts a teenage girl rescuing her mother who is a scientist taken hostage by the German occupiers. The story is based on the Norwegian heavy water sabotage, which in real life was undertaken by these men. Knowing this makes it hard to take this campaign's closing statement seriously. Countless acts of heroism and sacrifice would go unreported. Do you think you're helping, DICE? Do you think your fictionalized campaign is reporting on their sacrifice by misattributing their real heroism to a person that never existed? The third war story depicts colonial troops liberating occupied France. This is perhaps the most linear campaign of the 3, though the map it takes place on is still very large. It also tries to offer a tad more variety in objectives by having you capture flags, much like Conquest mode in multiplayer. Don't let that fool you though. The single player is not a good preparation for multiplayer. In fact, it can be positively misleading. The health attrition is totally absent in war stories, meaning you regenerate to full health just like you did in earlier battlefields. Furthermore, you can swap out your pistol for a second primary weapon, which is impossible in multiplayer. You might say the campaigns of earlier battlefields were just as misleading, which could be true. Nonetheless, we felt it was important to give you this warning. There is supposed to be a 4th war story, The Last Tiger, but that has been delayed and will arrive on December 4th in Battlefield 5's first content update, along with a new multiplayer map. They have also announced a Battle Royale mode called Firestorm that is scheduled to arrive next year. At the moment though, there are only 8 multiplayer maps, which might feel a bit sparse. The Eastern Front and Pacific Theater are conspicuous by their absence. This is a World War II game, which does not let you play as the Russians or Japanese. DICE promised there is more content to come, but they made similar promises with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and look how that turned out. It is worth noting that Battlefield 5 has done away with expansion packs, premium passes, and progress-to-pay microtransactions. This is a welcome, if long overdue change, as the aforementioned practices were one of the worst in the industry. We will explore this in much more detail in future videos, so please like, subscribe, and press the bell button to know when it's out. While the removal of these monetization schemes is certainly a huge improvement, what incentive does DICE now have to develop more content for this game? There is speculation that Battlefield 5 will be monetized through cosmetics, but would a company like EA be satisfied with that given their record? Tell us what you think in the comment section below. We suspect EA will look to fill the void left by the shortcut kits and premium pass. As to what their replacement might be, we think the launch schedule holds a clue. The players who were the first to play the game were not the buyers who pre-ordered the most expensive deluxe edition. This privilege was reserved for Origin Access Premier subscribers. We wonder if EA will make more benefits exclusive to Access Premier subscribers as a way to drive people to subscribe and thus provide a steady stream of revenue. Tell us if this makes sense to you in the comment section below. What is our verdict? Should you buy this game? To quote Patrick Sutherland, "Don't buy the game. At least not at this moment." Even if the new attrition system sounds right up your alley, we recommend you wait to see if DICE delivers on their post-launch promise of new content with Tides of War. Additionally, if you wait long enough, you might get a steep discount on the game, as was the case with Battlefield 1, selling for just $5. At this price, Battlefield 5 will certainly be a fantastic deal. Of course, buying the game also sets a precedent for what the developers can get away with. DICE has been downright hostile towards players who were concerned about historical accuracy, outright calling them uneducated, sexist, and dismissing their concerns. We have explored why they did this in a previous video, so be sure to watch that if you haven't already. Is this type of behavior what you want to incentivize? You be the judge. That concludes our review of Battlefield 5. If you found this video interesting, please share it to spread the word. There is more content like this in the works, including analysis of future content updates for Battlefield 5 when they're released. So please like, subscribe, and press the bell button so you don't miss out. Gameplay videos of Battlefield 5 will be up on the other channel, which also hosts analytical guides for Dota 2 and Rainbow Six Siege. Link is in the description and on the screen. While you're here, feel free to watch our playlist on hardware analysis of CPUs and GPUs. Our 4-part de novo analysis where we explore its history, its performance impact, and why developers stick with it even after it's been cracked. And our 3-part analysis of the DRM Stronger Than de novo, where we explore what it does and compare its success with de novo.